There it is. None of this doom and gloom, buddy. Doom and gloom. All right. Welcome. Welcome. I think we're all getting pissed on with the rain right now. All of New England, maybe not. A little bit up here up in the pucker brush. While no single conversation is guaranteed to change the trajectory of a career, a company, a relationship, or a life, any single conversation can. Any single conversation can. And today, our second to last one, we're talking about taking responsibility for your emotional wake. Taking responsibility for your emotional wake. By definition, it's the thing you leave behind you, right? There are people who take the heart out of you, and there are people who put it back. And I think one of the things that I really hope that in the next, 20 some odd minutes or so is we get an awareness about what kind of person are we? Are we the kind of person who is taking the hearts out of people, right? Or are we the kind of person who's putting it back in, making deposits every time we're with them? And that's really what we're talking about here. So an emotional wake is what you remember after I'm gone, what you remember after I'm gone, what you feel, the aftermath, the aftertaste, the afterglow. It's the lingering impact of the encounter. It's the lingering impact of the conversation, if that makes sense. So I would think that if you kind of looked at your interactions with people, you would probably have an awareness around the fact that there are people in your life who leave a much stronger emotional wake, either positive or negative, than others in your life, right? Some, it's a tiny little ripple. Others, it's freaking waves. And when the person leaves, we're still doing a bit of this, right? Sure. Yeah. What kind of person are you? What kind of wake are you leaving in a room? Are you one of those choppy white caps? Or are you a little more subtle, the paddle on a calm pond, as it were? So here's something to think about. What do I want them to remember when I'm gone? Right? I think this is really key thing to think about. And think about all the conversations we have with clients, potential clients, right? Other co-brokes, that kind of a thing. The partners that we have, affiliated businesses. What do I want them to remember when I'm gone? I need to say that, and only that, clearly. I need to say that, and only that, clearly. So here's a test. I want you to think about, what is it that you want to have people remember when you leave a buyer presentation? What do you want people to remember when you leave a buyer presentation? What is it, and sum it up in one word or maybe just a few words. Come off mute and share if you would.
Trust.
Trust. Yeah, trust would be a big one, right? It's a big uncertain thing that they're entering into. It's perhaps one of the larger purchases they'll make in their life.
What part of trust?
Ooh, I like that,
There are
Michael.
different parts of trust.
Yeah, we can unpack it a little bit more.
Trust to do the right thing. Trust to say, okay, I don't know this, but I'll find out.
Trust in a meeting, in the conversation, that if any party involved has concerns, questions, anything along those things like that, that there's an open forum and there's an open back and forth, right?
I think the trust in the buyer conversation is that you do have their interest first. It can be implemented in any way that we're talking. If I don't know, I'll find. If that is bad, I will tell you about that. If this is good, you will hear from me. I think it's the whole package that there is your priority.
And then the buyer has the ability to tell us no.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely, because it's a,
and you just put yourself on mute.
Yeah, you're not a dictator. You're the person that have their interest in mind, and that imply the conversation. It's implied that we're always in the contact, and they have input.
Love it. I'm going to stop us there. Unpack trust pretty good there. Give me something else.
I think getting to know that person, that they say, hey, she knows who I am. She knows where I'm coming from. Having the questions and having the conversation with them, that you're listening and that you're there to help them.
So really connection, right? A real connection
rapport
from that conversation. Harry, say it again.
Rapport.
Yeah, a rapport, right? I want to walk away having rapport with that person. Another one.
I want them to feel committed, and that they don't have to look anymore, that we have a loyalty agreement between us. I want them to walk away feeling, well, that's a check. I want to hire that they've made a decision and they're committed to working with me.
Love it. It's a commitment, and it's two-way. I'm committed to you and you are committed to me. And that's what, so let me pause this because we could keep going on this line, right? Bill had posted, complete honesty. I want to have permission to be able to have the real conversation, not blue sky and puppy dogs. Absolutely. So now look at your buyer presentation, and where are you conveying that 7, 8, 9 times in the presentation? This kind of thing does not get conveyed in one statement. It gets conveyed through repetition. It gets conveyed through multiple examples. It gets conveyed knowing that some people take things in differently, right? So sometimes I'm doing it verbally. Sometimes I'm doing it through showing them something. Sometimes it's third party, right? I'm sharing testimonials that express that. Make sense?
Yeah.
If we really want people to walk away with a particular thing, right? What do I want them to remember when I'm gone? If we think specifically around our presentation moments that we have, then I need to say that, and I need to say only that, and I need to say it clearly, right? And my experience has been, it's significant repetition, right? We have told our agents in our office over and over and over again over the last 5-6 weeks of, this is going to be a challenge. This isn't suddenly over on May 1st, June 1st. I don't care what amount of opening up happens, right? In 6 weeks, we're at 30 million unemployed. I actually want that to be a takeaway, which means I have to say it over and over again for that to sink in the hopes that then converts into new action.
Wait, this isn't going to be over May 1st?
Yeah, sorry, ignore that original memo. Yep, exactly. So here's a question for you, and it's something we've been talking about a lot over the last several weeks, is who needs to hear from you? Who needs to know that you appreciate them? When we think about appreciation, when we think about gratitude, it is such a great way to make sure that our emotional wake is having a positive impact. Does that make sense? Right? Those calls of gratitude, those calls of appreciation. And the other thing I think that it's important to keep in mind is we've got to make sure that we're conveying them in a way that we know they're being heard. So the challenge can be, if we're all email, all text, all DM, right? Are we really hearing back that stuff is sinking in? That what I meant to convey was what was received? Because if it wasn't received the way I meant to, who has to own that?
You do.
We do.
Yeah, Doofus McGee here, right? I got to own it. That's on me, not on them. Well, you didn't do what it. I can't control anybody. All I can control is me, right? So if I've set myself up for success, had that as a phone conversation or as a Zoom, as opposed to a text message, I'm more likely to figure out, did the message land? Was it received? Is that what they're walking away with from our conversation, right?
Hey, Brad, can I just add, and maybe
Please.
I'd be curious if people would challenge this. So I'm reading No Excuses by Brian Tracy. And so one of the things that he's talking about is that in order for all of this to work, right, in order for us to be able to convey a message and to make sure that people understand it, we have to actually believe it. And so that comes out of your values. So like you can tell people that you care about them, but if you don't actually care about them, no matter how many times you say it, they're not going to believe it because it's not what you actually believe. So I think it was on the shift call, James said, or maybe it was you, if you don't care, don't make that call. Wait until you actually care.
Yeah.
Right.
I said that the other day. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's dead on. And one of my favorite jokes, early jokes in real estate was, this business is a real personal business. It's a relationship business. It's a business where you really need to care about people, and and that genuineness is so important. And as soon as you can learn how to fake that, you're going to be able to do anything you want. Yeah, we can't fake it, right? And here's the thing, people will know, but they won't be able to verbalize the disconnect. Going back to our conversation yesterday, something in their gut will say, something ain't right about this guy. I'm not buying it, right? I'll tell you an example that has grown on me over the years, which is there are words that are more effective than other words, correct?
Yes.
That if I say something a certain way, I'm more likely to convey it quicker, faster, deeper, all that kind of stuff. So, and we like to call those scripts. The script is not the conversation, right? I prefer to people think of scripts as the doorway to a conversation, right? Hey, Mr. Expired, where were you going if you did sell, right? It's a very quick and succinct way to get to the heart of what was their motivation when they put the house on the market, right? So the scripts are important. So please don't disregard the fact that there are better ways to say things, and we need to internalize them so that they are ours, not somebody else's we're regurgitating, right? Here's a little side note. Everything you say is a script, okay? Unless you're the author of the Bible or Shakespeare, you probably haven't come up with anything original, because almost all of our culture is a rehash of some material coming from those sources. And a lot of Shakespeare's is a rehash of the first one, right? We only got a handful of good stories here. We just keep changing the names and the scenario and the background and the lighting, okay? Just look at what Hollywood's cranking out these days. It's all the same crap we've been seeing for years, just slightly different. So we'll spend another $15 to go see it, okay? So everything we say is something we've learned from somebody else, right? That's what it is. That's how we work as a society. So the scripts are not to be disregarded, and we need to internalize them, and it's not the conversation, right? And one of the things that I had an awareness about coaching a lot of people through MAPS for a long time was some of us drop the ball right at the end. We have very good scripts in the beginning that unlocks the door to a conversation. We have a powerful conversation with the person. We really connect. And then we go for the appointment and we say, well, that sounds great, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Well, can you meet Monday at 2, or would Thursday be better? And it suddenly sounds incredibly scripted. It suddenly sounds incredibly scripted. And they will agree to that appointment. And in the aftermath, in the wake of the conversation, after the phone is hung up, there'll be this underlying, what did I just agree to? and was that whole thing a spiel, or did they really care? Right. Just because the last little So I actually started working with people to say, hey, listen, always fumble that part of the conversation, right? Well, Harry, geez, it sounds to me like maybe we should get together. Hold on a second. Where the hell's my calendar? Here it is. Okay. I've got a little time. Geez, I got a little time tomorrow, or do you want to? My calendar's always open, folks. I always know what time I have to fill. Always and forever. Part of it is, let's make sure it doesn't suddenly come across as scripted. We don't want to lose it at the last minute, right? So we've got to find ways to make sure that we're really present in the conversation. That when we've decided what is the most important thing, what is the most important thing that we need to convey, right? That we're repeating it over and over and over again, okay? There's a reason why every single one of these calls, I'm starting with this, because we have to understand that there's massive weight and potential. Any single conversation can. Massive weight and potential when we have an opportunity to converse with somebody. And we've got to take ownership of that. And we've got to take ownership of this emotional wake. Here's something I want you to consider with this. Don't sacrifice results in favor of efficiency. Don't sacrifice results in favor of efficiency. Something that's come to mind for me on this is, what is the restaurant you're most longing to go sit at again? Are they a super efficient restaurant, or do they produce a great result? The quality of the food, the quality of the experience matters most. The Kowloon! I love it, Tim Lindsay, love it. Kowloon. Yeah, we're looking for, I can picture the restaurant in Portland. Like, I can't wait to go back. And you know what? It always takes a little longer than other restaurants. It's not the most efficient, but boy, is it worth the wait. It's worth the result, right? So let's make sure we're not sacrificing results in favor of efficiency. Your consumer will know. Sometimes our system is so well oiled that that's actually why we lose people, because we've made the system all about us and not all about our consumer. Let's not sacrifice results. Yes.
Hey, Brad, how are you? Paul Corey.
How you doing, man?
This is a great call. Really, it's hitting home with me, and it's allowing me to bring out this internal battle that I have. My disc is very relational. Conversations go long with people, and I tend to go deep with people.
Yeah.
However, after years and years of taking, bold and classes where 20 to 40 contexts, doubling down at this time is our expectation.
Mm-hmm.
That messes me all up, because
yes,
I can't do everything you're saying and do a good job at it, and I come off fake, which is not me. I do have many of the scripts internalized from practicing scripts over the years, but I just feel like, am I going to go deep with people and do what this conversation Zoom call is all about, or am I going to go down the racetrack and try to get 40 contacts today and just say I did it without getting any results? And I think that's exactly why I'm having, and I don't know if anyone else is having struggles with that, but my natural tendency is to have 3 or 4 great conversations, and I can write great notes in my database that what was all about. Maybe take someone out to lunch when you can do that again.
Right.
And that's more my style. So tell me what your thoughts are about
Michelle,
that.
real quick.
No, I was just he just took the words out of my mouth. I was just gonna say I totally agree. It's the antithesis I agree with what you're saying. Totally. There has to be sincerity there. But it's completely the antithesis of what they're like sort of preaching in bold. And it's like, how do you do both? Exactly.
How do you do both? I love it. Paul, you've been in my classes a couple of times, right? So I'm going to ask.
And I love them.
I'm going to ask for permission. Can I shoot real straight with you right now? Hit you with a 10?
That's who I am.
Love it. You said the same thing 3 times. In explaining what you just said, you said it 3 times.
That's because I only had 2 minutes. Give me 10, I'll say it 20 times.
Exactly. So my best coaching thing I would have for you is record your conversations for a week and then go back and listen to them and find out, how often am I talking just to fill the air as opposed to really digging deep and really listening? Are you having long conversations because we're doing such a great job probing and we're really getting them to open up? Or are there times where we're just talking to fill the dead space? Most of us can do better on the fill in the dead space one. And I encourage you to be on tomorrow, because tomorrow is going to talk about all about let the silence do the heavy lifting. Yes, ask and listen. Yeah, right. Use them proportional, right? 2 ears, 1 mouth. Use it proportionately. Right. And seriously,
really
like,
mouth,
you just asked the same question, but it took rehashing it 3 times to do it. So I know there is an ability there without losing result to gain some efficiency, right? So I would record those calls and then see what you learn from it. It's painful. It's painful to listen to yourself recorded. I will say this more broadly. If you're looking at your calendar and you're struggling to see where can I wring out some more time, some more efficiency in my calendar to produce better results, it's hard to do that looking forward, right? It's easier to do that looking backward. Okay, where last week was there things that I spent time on that I should never spend time on again? So I would bring the same thing to the call. Let's listen to those calls and go, how could I have made that one call a little more direct without losing value? I promise you will find stuff if you do that exercise.
All right, thank you.
You bet, man. And yes, I'm very similar. When I first started coaching, like 30-minute call, are you kidding me? I'm still at hello in 30 minutes. What the hell? You gotta get into this stuff quicker. And you can do it and deliver value. Lee, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, you had talked about hammering it 7, 8, 9 times.
Mm-hmm.
And there are different modes of showing you care. So
yes.
If we have that care call and we keep it, I had to get off of one that was going on, and we just keep it down to 5 minutes instead of 25 minutes. We then can follow up with a handwritten note saying how great it was that we talked to you, or we can do something else for the person. It's just, I think we have to watch our efficiency, like you said, and then be sincere with our care by doing it in a different way than the call. Maybe the next time you text them and say, hey, we were talking about Johnny, how's he doing? Or something else to reach back.
Yep. And there's great value in the repetition, right? So there may actually be more value in 2 10-minute calls as opposed to 1 25-minute call. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's easy. It's not. I had to listen to a lot of my own coaching calls to move that dial and to begin to have a much more proportional listening as opposed to speaking. The challenge, we're going to keep moving forward here, and hopefully that was helpful. The challenge is to reconcile being real and doing no harm. And I'm talking to those of you who know you have a big emotional wake. For those of you who know that you have a big emotional wake, your tendency will be to just have this posture of, hey, this is me, you just got to deal with it. No, we don't have to deal with it, and we can all fire your ass. You have to be cognizant of the impact you're having on other people and you got to take responsibility for it. You got to take responsibility for it. So the bigger your emotional wake, the challenge is the bigger your awareness of it has to be, right? You have the potential of really creating a massive impact on other people, so it had darn well better be positive. It had darn well better be positive. Michael?
I think what you were just saying there could have been more clear, because you said if you have a big emotional wake, a big negative emotional wake, because you ended it with positive and then it became a lot more clear.
Right.
Because I wasn't sure if, you know, again, maybe I'm seeing what I want to see, but I think I'd like to think that my emotional wake is somewhat positive.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, so it was like, if you have a big, you know, you were just talking about that emotional wake, and I'm like, well, should I tone it down? If I'm seeing a, anyway.
Right. This isn't necessarily a tone it down. I don't want you to take it from white caps to ripples. What I want you to do is make sure that the white caps are a positive impact on people. Right.
Correct.
And that they're having the result. I think the biggest issue for most is you don't know what your emotional wake is doing to other people. You don't know the effect you've left on people after you leave the room. And it's that awareness. And once we have that awareness, there's then an aspect of it that we have to go, okay, that's, I think, what the impact is. Is that what I was going for, right? Is that how I wanted to leave them? Or was there something different, right? Think of it this way too, and I think this is an important piece I want to shoehorn in before we run out of time. In an important relationship, there is no trivial comment. In an important relationship, there is no trivial comment. And this was an experience that hit me as a young man. I was involved in theater through high school, college, first profession, all that kind of stuff. And as I was leaving high school, going to college, I had a brief conversation with somebody else, and you know, had told them, like, hey, I think you're doing well. You should do this. Came back to visit my high school a few years later. That person was graduating, and they had been accepted to a school, and they were going to pursue theater for their life. And hunted me down to say, hey, do you remember that conversation? That's why I'm doing this. And it was exciting that my conversation could have that kind of impact on someone. And it was horrifying. I had no idea that my words could have that kind of impact. And it made me recall all the times I had thrown out the statement of, hey, you're good, kid, you're going someplace. And realized, oh shit, that might stick. We've got to own those words, right? Which for many of us may mean there needs to be more filtering going on before we blast off, right? And those are especially my higher D, higher I type personalities, because we love to move fast and we love to talk loud, right? So pulling that back, being a bit conservative with that, being proactive in our thought, what do I hope to leave people with from this conversation, that kind of a thing, can be hugely impactful. So here's what I hope you got from this conversation today. Your words matter, and they can have a change in the trajectory of people's lives. We're going to wrap it up next week. Go get them, gang. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
Always a pleasure, Brad.
Thank you, Brad.